Welcome in, everyone, to Lively Lewis Stories.
That's right, we're back with even more awesome adventures with Levi and Ivy.
Set your storytime meter to fun and get ready to join the Lively Lewis crew.
All you need is your imagination and...
Off we go!
I can't wait to see where our story takes us today.
Have you ever wanted to get more Lively Lewis in your life?
Well, we've got you covered.
Grab an adult and zoom over to livelylewisshop.com.
Or just click on the link in our show notes.
Enough about that. Let's get to today's super Lively Lewis story.
The soft glow washed over Alexandria, Levi, and Ivy as they stepped through the portal that allowed them to enter the unfinished copy of the Time Traveler's Journal, The Quest for an Answer. As they looked around, they got a sense of what kind of time-traveling adventure they were about to be involved in. As the glow vanished like a light fog, they saw what was in front of them. "This place looks awesome," said Levi as he stared up at a huge stone castle. "I wonder if there's a fire-breathing dragon in there." "Don't wonder that too loudly," replied Alexandria. "Remember, we have the power to write the rest of this book, and I don't know if we want to write a fire-breathing anything into our story." "Good point," said Levi in a small voice. "This place looks lovely," said Ivy as she started to wander around. "Almost like something out of one of my Enchanted Chronicles books. Those books aren't all fairies, gnomes, and giants. Some of the plots do take place around a beautiful castle just like this." The three book buddies decided to walk around a bit, seeing if that would help to start the story, since they would be living it rather than reading it. "I mean, I know we said we didn't want any dragons in this story, but what do you think lives in there?" asked Levi, pointing toward a cave just beyond the castle in an area that led into the woods. Alexandria, of course, was the best one to answer any questions regarding the Time Traveler's Journal stories because she had read them all. There had to be something that she'd learned from all the stories that could help her to complete this one, some kind of common thread that tied them all together. "It's possible that there could be a dragon here, but those caves look more likely to have the Wily Boys inside them than a dragon," answered Alexandria, and she was right. "Wait a minute, those look exactly like the Caves of Courage in the Quest for the Lost Treasure," exclaimed Levi. "But how can that be? This is a totally different book series. And why does the castle look so much like the one from the Enchanted Chronicle books?" asked Ivy. "This is getting weird." It was then that the book buddies heard a sound in the distance. It was getting louder and louder, and they looked in the direction that the sound was coming from. They saw a cloud of dust beginning to form on the dirt road they were standing beside. "It's a horse!" called out Ivy. "But who's riding it?" Yet another question they had to answer, so the book buddies waited by the side of the road until the horse and its rider, dressed in a suit of armor, stopped right in front of them. They looked very regal and grand, but also mysterious and a bit scary since they couldn't see the stranger's face. "Hi, I'm Alexandria," she said as the horse's rider jumped off the horse and was now standing right in front of her. "Do you think you could help us?" Alexandria's voice was shaking just a little bit, and Levi and Ivy bravely stepped up and stood beside their friend as the stranger reached up to remove their helmet and reveal who they were. The book buddies huddled close together, not knowing exactly what to expect, but before they knew it, the stranger's identity was revealed. And thankfully, it was just who they needed to see. "Hello, Alexandria," said the stranger. "Do you know who I am?" For the first time since the beginning of this quest, Alexandria knew the answer to the question being asked. You're Penelope Carson, the author of the Time Traveler's Journal book series." Alexandria blurted out in complete shock. "I can't believe it's you!" Levi and Ivy were stunned as well. Why was the author of the book here with them? Did she write herself into the book, or does she have the power to jump into her favorite books just like they did? They quickly got the answer to their question. "I know you must have a million questions right now," said Penelope, "but we don't have a lot of time to get your quest completed before you have to head back home. I chose you, Alexandria, to help me, and we need to complete this journey today. Since I was your age, I've had the ability to jump into my favorite books fueled by my love of reading. That's why I became an author. Anything I thought of, I could turn into a marvelous book. That is until this book. That's why I needed your help. I can't leave this story incomplete. No matter what else I write, I can't help but think that this one story never got finished. The characters never got the chance to exist together, to complete their own adventure, to learn from each other, to help each other, and to grow together through more and more books." "But why me?" Alexandria asked. "Because you're this book series' biggest fan," began Penelope. I saw you at my last book signing, and the look on your face when you met me was the same as when I met my favorite author at your age. I also knew you had the special ability to jump into books like me. I was led to that book sale, knowing you'd be there and knowing you'd find my book. It also didn't hurt that your friends read my books too. I knew they would be right by your side on this adventure, and I thought the more minds working on an answer to this question, the better. Levi and Ivy looked at each other and wondered what Penelope meant when they said they were also fans of her book. Miss Carson, it's great to meet you, and your books are awesome, but I don't read this series, began Levi. My favorite series is The Quest for the Lost Treasure. And Miss Carson, I think you're a great author too, but I also don't read your books often, said Ivy, not wanting to hurt Penelope's feelings. My favorite series is the Enchanted Chronicles. Penelope gave them all a sweet and slightly mysterious smile. As they looked at her, they knew she had something else to tell them. So not too many people know this, but I have a bit of a secret when it comes to my writing. Well, actually 2 secrets, said Penelope. The Time Traveler's Journal is my oldest series and the one I most closely connect to, but I've also written some other books. Wait a minute, said Levi. You're not saying that you also wrote The Quest for the Lost Treasure? Penelope just looked down at the ground and slowly nodded, as her cheeks turned a bit red from keeping the secret from one of her biggest fans. Just think for a minute, Levi. What's the name of the author that writes The Quest for Lost Treasure? Asked Penelope. Well, it's Penny Cars. Everyone knows that, said Levi. She's just super secretive and no one has ever met her. She's mysterious and magical, just like her books, and oh my gosh, Penny Cars! It's short for Penelope Carson! Levi couldn't believe it, and as he was coming to terms with the fact that his favorite author was standing right in front of him, Ivy was putting together some pieces of a puzzle that was now swirling in her head. So you wouldn't by any chance be Nellie Penn, the author of the Enchanted Chronicles, who only speaks to her fans through articles on her website, would you? Ivy burst out when she finally realized what was happening. That would be me, answered Penelope. But why all the secrets? Exclaimed Alexandria, Levi, and Ivy together. It's a long story, said Penelope. And I only have time for the shorter version. She went on to tell them how the first book series she wrote was The Time Traveler's Journal. She loved the other 2 series very much and wanted all the characters to exist together. But when that didn't happen, she just decided to write them all 3 completely different series, keeping everything separate. Wait a minute, is your unfinished book about all the characters from your 3 series? Asked Alexandria, starting to put it all together. That's right, began Penelope. As I was writing The Time Traveler's Journal, I had the idea for the Wiley Boys and all the treasure-seeking adventures they would go on in the Caves of Courage. I also had the idea for the fairies, gnomes, and giants that inhabited the wonderful world of the Enchanted Chronicles. As an author, I wanted to create books about all the things I love, but they were all so different. I just couldn't make them work together, and that made me sad. I wanted all these characters to find readers who loved them, so I just wrote 3 different series, hoping someday they could all join together. Wow, said the book buddies. It was a lot of information to take in, but still not an answer to the question they were all after. So, you want us to all work together to see if there's a way to bring all your characters into one giant series? Asked Alexandria. Exactly. So, do you think you can do it? Asked Penelope. If there's one thing we know, it's everything about each of our favorite characters from your books, said Levi. I think together we can make it work, for sure, said Ivy. That's what I wanted to hear, exclaimed Penelope. So follow me and let's get started on our quest for an answer. The book buddies followed close behind Penelope as they ran into the Caves of Courage. Once inside, they met the Wiley Boys. Hey, Levi, called out the boys, excited to see their friend again. Levi was excited too and told them to join their crew and help find the answer they were looking for. Their next stop was the forest that surrounded the beautiful castle. After only a few steps into the magical mythical woods, Ivy called out to her fairy and gnome friends. They danced through dewdrops that glistened in the sunlight as she told them of their quest. We'd love to help you, their tiny voices rang out, but we know someone else that would love to help too. That's when Ivy turned around and saw a friendly giant heading her way. She jumped into his outstretched hand and was picked up high above the forest floor for a quick hello before they all walked back toward the castle. With all the characters assembled, along with Penelope, Alexandria, Levi, and Ivy, they were ready to give it their best try. They sat for what seemed like forever trying to make the 3-book series work together. Trying to figure out, could the fairies help the Wiley Boys find lost treasure? Or how would the giants possibly fit into the time travel portal? Or would the Wily boys like to live in a toadstool house and drink honeysuckle tea? Or how would the fairies like flying through outer space instead of an enchanted forest on a time travel adventure? Or would Marvelous Mountain have enough caves for the Wily boys to explore? Or whether none of that would ever work and Penelope's dream of having her favorite characters in one book would be just that, a dream that would never come true. The time was getting later and later, and like all the other times, the book buddies journeyed into their favorite books. They once again saw a faint glow beginning to form, which meant it was time to go home. Orin the owl, who always helped them return to the real world, flew overhead, and they all started to think that their quest was a failure. Penelope got up and thanked everyone for all their hard work before she started to walk toward the portal to head home herself. "I just want to thank you all for your hard work," said Penelope with a tear in her eye. "I know we all tried as hard as we could, but it looks like some books are meant to stay unfinished. I'm just happy that at least all my characters got to bring you all joy, even if it was all in 3 different series." "Wait, Penelope," called out Alexandria. "Don't be sad. At least we had a great time making up all those funny scenarios about your characters living together. Even though they didn't work out, everyone had fun just being together and sharing their own ideas and stories." It was then that Penelope stopped. She tilted her head to the side as if she had just seen something wonderful and was trying to take it all in. "That's it! I think that's it!" called out Penelope. "I can write a story about trying to have them all live together, but as they go along, they find out that they all have their own special talents, their likes, dislikes, and their own adventures and quests to complete. And during their time together, they learn that they don't all have to do everything together." "That sounds great!" exclaimed Levi. Everyone burst out cheering, so happy that Penelope's dream of writing a story with all her characters was possible. It just wouldn't be a replacement for all her book series, because they were all perfect in their own ways. So as the Wily boys, the fairies, gnomes, and the giants all waved goodbye once again to their friends from the real world, Penelope decided to stay a bit longer. And in that time, she finally finished her unfinished book. Her quest for an answer was complete, and now no longer was the title of her book. She released her new book a few months later and also shared with the world the first time that she was in fact the mysterious author of the Enchanted Chronicles and the Quest for the Lost Treasure book series. The news took the world by storm and was met with excitement and rave reviews. Penelope's new book was a huge hit, and the book buddies were not left out of the spotlight. The front cover of her finally finished book read, "The Time Traveler's Enchanted Chronicle Quest," written by Penelope Carson. Story idea inspired by the book buddies, Alexandria, Levi, and Ivy. An amazing collection of characters and adventures, and the realization that everyone is special in their own way. Thanks for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the story and learned a little something too.
And since we know everyone has their own story, we'd love to hear yours.
If you have an idea for a Lively Lewis story, leave a comment on our Apple Podcast review page with 5 stars, your idea, and your little one's name.
Then maybe our next adventure will be with you.
Until our next Storytime Hangout.
Thanks for listening. We can't wait to share another fun Lively Lewis story with you.